Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who set us apart by his word and commanded us to eat the bitter herbs. Amen. So why do we dip twice? On all other nights, we do not dip our vegetables even once, but tonight we dip them twice. We've already dipped the parsley into the salt water. The brown, mortar-y looking stuff there is called haricet. It's meant to look like mortar, but it's actually made with fruit.
It's what's in there is dates, lovely, really lovely dates, juicy ones, and walnuts, grape juice, and apple. So it's a really lovely thing. So you put that on your.
So the children of Israel were taught to make treasure cities for Pharaoh, working in brick. So we remember this task in a mixture, working in brick and clay. We remember the task in a mixture called haricet, which is made from chopped apples, honey, nuts and wine. Let us once again scoop some bitter herbs onto a small piece of matzah. But this time, before we eat, let us dip the herbs into the sweet haricet as well. So take 2 pieces of matzah, or 1 piece if you feel like it, brave enough. And you put some horseradish on one end and the haricet on the other. So we dip the bitter herbs into the haricet to remind ourselves that even the most bitter of circumstances can be sweetened by the hope that we have in our own God. So as they were reclining and eating, Yeshua said, "Yes, I tell you that one of you is going to betray me." And they became upset and began asking him one after the other, "You don't mean me, do you?" "It's one of the 12, he said to them. "Someone dipping his matzah into the dish with me." So everything that we do tonight is exactly the same as he did with them. So tonight we recline, because don't forget, this was the Middle East. They didn't sit at tables and chairs.
Like we are now.
They reclined on cushions and they were low down. So there's a tradition. Some people bring along pillows and everything else, and they all sort of lean to the right at the same time.
All reclining.
Like this.
So on all other nights we eat sitting or reclining, but tonight we eat reclining. The first Pesach was celebrated by a people that were enslaved.
Once we were slaves, but now we are free.
The children of Israel were instructed to eat the pesach seder in haste, their loins girded, their staffs in their hands, and their sandals upon their feet, awaiting departure from the bondage of Egypt. Today we may all recline and freely enjoy the pesach seder. And Messiah said,
Come unto me, all you who are struggling, burdened. I will give you rest.
Now the next part is McGee. So what I'll do is I'll ask different people now to do these readings. It's a story of miracles, it's a story of redemption, it's a story of the mighty power of Yahweh to overcome evil. You must read the first one.
The Lord had promised the land of Israel to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Jacob. Yet here were their children in Egypt. The Pharaoh who had come to power feared them. These foreigners in our midst are prospering and have grown numerous, he thought. Suppose they join with our enemies and turn against us? Pharaoh decided to exert greater control over his people, imposing harsh and bitter slavery upon the Israelites. Still, God blessed his people in strength and number.
Let's read the next one, please.
Pharaoh grew more frightened and ordered every baby boy among the Israelites to be drowned in the Nile River. One Israelite couple hid their little boy for 3 months, finally entrusting his future to God. They set him in a basket and placed him on the river. His sister Miriam watched as he floated downstream. Coming upon the basket, Pharaoh's daughter took pity on the child and chose to raise him as her own son. She called him Moses, meaning drawn from the water.
Moses grew and became aware of the travail of his people. One day in a rage, he lost control of himself and killed an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave. Fleeing the palace and the eye of Pharaoh, Moses became a shepherd in the land of Midian, far from the cries of his suffering brothers.
The Lord, however, saw the affliction of the children of Israel and heard their groaning. He would raise up a deliverer to lead them out of bondage. It was then that he appeared to Moses in the midst of a bush that burned with fire, yet was not consumed. Moses drew closer and listened as God commissioned him to go to Pharaoh. Fearful and reluctant, still Moses agreed to bring God's message to the king of Egypt. Let my people go.
I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzhak, and the God of Jacob. Now we have the cup of plagues. And the scriptures are free from the forced labour of the Egyptians. Moshe left the wilderness to return to Pharaoh's palace, the very place where he'd been raised. He returned with the message which the Lord had given him, but Yahweh himself warned Moses of the resistance that he would encounter. I know that the king of Egypt will not let you leave unless he is forced to do so.
But I will reach out my hands as records of all my wonders, and I will do there. After that, you will to go.
So Yahweh sent plagues one by one, and yet with each plague Pharaoh hardened his heart. And the thing you need to understand about the plagues is every single one of them challenged one of the Egyptian gods. The Egyptians had many, many gods, and he challenged the main ones to show how little power they had and how they didn't compare with him. This is the reason they were upset because of them, because he challenged their gods and showed that their gods were impotent, they were useless. So the Egyptians became afflicted with discomfort and disease, bane and blight. Still Pharaoh would not relent, and with the 10th and most awful plague, Yahweh pierced through the hardness of Pharaoh's impenetrable heart.
For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt, and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and animals. I will execute judgment amongst all the gods of Egypt. I am Adonai.
So let us fill our cups for a second time. We won't be drinking it right now, but if you just fill it, then you'll be ready. This is where you'll need your serviette. So like, put your serviette next to your glass.
So we just sort of dip your little finger in. This where you sort of dip your little finger in.
So this is the cup of plagues.
Cup of
And what
plagues.
we do is, as we recount each plague, sorry, I'll read the whole thing. A full cup is a symbol of joy, and indeed on this occasion we're filled with joy at God's mighty deliverance. But let us also remember the great cost at which redemption was purchased, both in Egypt and through Yeshua. Lives were sacrificed to bring about the release of God's people from the slavery of Egypt. But a far greater price purchased our redemption from slavery to sin, the death of Messiah. And as we recount each plague, let us dip a little finger into the cup, allowing a drop of liquid to fall, reducing the fullness of our cup. We won't go through all of them, we'll just do the first one and the last one. All right, we'll do them all.
We'll do them all.
These traditionalists.
Yes.
So blood,
Blood.
dip your little finger in and just let the drop fall onto your serviette.
Frogs.
Lice.
Lice. Beasts. Cattle disease. Boils. Hail.
Hail,
Locusts. Darkness.
death of the firstborn.
Death of birthborn.
As you can see, cup of joy is a little bit less in it. So again, don't drink your cup at this time. The reason you filled it is to do that. Come now to the pesach lamb. Blood will serve you as a sign marking the houses where you are, and when I see the blood I will pass over you. Rabbi Gamaliel, who was a teacher of Rabbi Shaul, or Paul the Apostle, taught that in recounting the Passover story one must be certain to mention three things: the unleavened bread, the bitter herbs, and the Passover lamb. We have eaten the manna with the haste with which the children of Israel fled Egypt. We have tasted the bitter herbs. If you remember the story when who was it? Yitzhak, he came back out of the river. Israel, So the shank bone is there to remind us of the lamb, the Pesach lamb. What we do is we don't follow tradition. Tradition these days, because the temple isn't around anymore, they tend to eat chicken. But as somebody said to me tonight, it wasn't a chicken that saved us. It was the Pesach lamb, it was the Passover lamb, it was Yeshua that saved us, not the Passover chicken. So, but we remember the shank bone, and also it has quite a lot of significance. Normally, you'd have it with the unbroken thigh, the hip joint. And the reason for that is when Yitzhak came over the river and fought
Jacob. Yaakov.
Yaakov. I knew I got it wrong. When Yaakov came over the river and fought, you remember he touched his hip bone and dislocated it? So that's the reason normally that they put the whole thing there without it being broken or dislocated. So it's in remembrance of that. It remembers the times when we've wrestled with God. I've got news for you. He will win. But it has to be free will. He will never force anybody. You can't talk anybody into the kingdom. You have to come into a relationship with him. You're his children and he wants you to come home.
He didn't have one bone that was broken.
No, he didn't. He never had a bone that was broken. It fulfilled that prophecy that the ones either side of him, they broke their legs. But with him, it didn't happen. They just pierced his side. So this roasted shank bone represents the lamb whose blood marked the houses of the children of Israel, signifying their obedience to Yahweh's command. On the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb or kid for his family, one per household. Your animal must be without defect, a male in its first year. You're to keep it until the 14th day of the month, and then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at dusk. They are to take some of the blood, smear it on the two sides and top of the door frame at the entrance of the house in which they eat it.
That night they are to eat the meat, roasted in the fire. They are to eat it with matzah and maror. Here is how they are to eat it: with your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you are to eat it in a hurriedly. That is Adonai's Pesach. The blood will serve you as a sign marking the houses where you are when I see the blood. I will pass over you when I strike the land of Egypt, The death blow will not strike you.
So we're reminded by Moshe or Moses that it was the Lord himself who redeemed the children of Israel from slavery. And Yahweh brought us all out of Egypt with a
Strong hand and an outstretched out arm, with great terror and signs and wonders.
So remember, yes, he has a strong hand, but he also has an outstretched arm, like any other father that wants his children to come home. For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt. I am not an angel. And kill the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and animals.
I am not seraph.
I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt.
I am not a messenger.
I am Yahweh.
I myself am another.
So as I said, traditionally, since the temple in Jerusalem no longer stands, lamb isn't eaten at Passover, and they use the shank bone. But I believe in following Torah, and Torah says that it's about having a Passover lamb. So we have a Passover lamb. We don't mix it with chicken. We did when we first started, but we've realised it's about the lamb, so we have the lamb. That's it. We who have trusted Yeshua the Messiah believe he is the Lamb of God.
Help us, ancient Israelites, not an angel,
God himself,
not a seraph,
God himself, and not a messenger, who achieved final redemption from sin and death. God himself through Yeshua, who takes away the sin of the world. So the Lord brought us out of Egypt with an outstretched arm, with great terror and with miraculous signs and wonders. So they will gush forth for the fame of your abounding goodness, and they will sing of your righteousness. And basically, Diana means it would have been enough. Diana means enough. How great is God's goodness for us. For each of his acts of mercy and kindness, we declare Diana, it would have been sufficient. So, if the Lord had merely rescued us, but had not judged the Egyptians,
Dainu,
if he had only destroyed their gods, but had not parted the Red Sea,
Dainu,
if he'd only drowned our enemies, but not fed us with manna,
Dainu,
if he'd only led us through the desert, but not given us the Shabbat,
Dainu,
and if he'd only given us the Torah, but not the land of Israel.
Dainu,
But the Holy One, blessed be he, provided all of these blessings for our ancestors. And not only these, but so many more. Blessed are you, O God, when you have mercy supply all of our needs. You have given us Messiah, forgiving us of sins and life
of abundance,
life everlasting. Hallelujah. So now we drink the second cup. And for those that know it, they can lead us in just a couple of verses of Diana.
Dainu, 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 Dainu.
Believe me, we're taking you through the short version. If this was a proper Orthodox celebration, we'd be here for quite a few hours. And now we come to the part that everybody's been waiting for and saying, are we there yet? This is the Shulchan Aruch. This is the Pesach meal. It's not a Passover supper, it's a Pesach meal. It's one of the festivals that we eat and celebrate delivery from slavery. It's a day for all of you to remember and celebrate as a festival to Yahweh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.